Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got something really interesting, especially for those of you working in public service.
Hmm.
It's about a new AI tool called Consult. The government's actually trialing it right now to help analyze public consultation feedback.
Right. And we all know how crucial consultations are. They directly shape policies.
Exactly. But you also know the flip side, wading through potentially thousands of responses. It's a huge job.
It really is. It takes up so much time, costs a lot. And, even with the best will in the world, human analysis can be subjective.
For sure. So our mission today is basically to get to grips with Consult. How does it work? What are the potential benefits, particularly for you, the public servant, trying to make a difference?
And what are the early trials telling us? You're basing this mostly on a really good piece from Government Transformation magazine.
Okay, so let's start with the challenge itself, the traditional way of handling these consultations.
Yeah, the article lays it out pretty starkly. It often means either a massive internal effort or outsourcing it. And that outsourcing costs around $20 million a year across government.
20 million. Wow.
Yeah, it's a big number. And then there's the time cost.
Mm-hmm.
They estimate it's about 75,000 workdays annually just spent on analyzing feedback.
75,000 days. Think what else could be done with that time, that capacity.
Precisely. Time that could go into policy development, service improvement, direct impact.
And you mentioned subjectivity earlier. That's always there, isn't it? Different analysts might pull out slightly different key themes from the same set of responses.
Absolutely. That's kind of the niche Consult is aiming to fill. It's described as a generative AI tool.
Generative AI meaning it can create summaries and categorize things.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
It learns patterns from the data and then generates, in this case, summaries or identifies themes within the public feedback. Its first live trial was actually with the Scottish government.
Okay, what were they looking at?
They used it on a consultation about regulating non-surgical cosmetic procedures. Things like fillers and Botox. It's an area where there's been a lot more activity recently, so a real need for clear rules.
Makes sense, a practical test case. And Consult isn't on its own, right? It's part of something bigger.
That's right. It's part of a suite of AI tools the government is developing, collectively called Humphrey.
Humphrey sounds very proper.
Doesn't it? The idea behind Humphrey, the whole suite, is to speed up various civil service tasks, cut down on admin, and crucially, reduce reliance on those expensive external contractors.
So Consult is one specific tool aimed at that bigger picture of efficiency. How does it actually work then, day to day on a consultation?
Well, in the Scottish trial, it analyzed over 2,000 responses. These are answers to 6 qualitative questions, so, open text answers.
Right, the complex stuff, not just tick boxes.
Exactly. The AI went through and identified what it thought were the key themes. And this is important, that wasn't the end of it. Human experts, officials within the Scottish government, then reviewed those AI-suggested themes. They refined them, tweaked them based on their policy knowledge and understanding of the nuances.
Ah, so a human check, a validation step. That feels crucial.
Definitely. Once those themes were locked in, agreed upon, Consult, then went back through all the individual responses and sorted them into those finalized categories.
So it's like AI does the initial heavy sift, and humans provide the strategic direction and quality control.
You've got it. And officials can still look at everything through an interactive dashboard. They can see the themes, see how responses are grouped, even click down to read specific comments if they need to.
Okay, that sounds pretty sensible. What about the results? Did it actually work well in this trial?
Apparently, yes. The article says the results were nearly identical to the manual analysis that the Scottish government experts did separately.
Nearly identical. That's actually quite impressive for qualitative data.
It really is. There's always going to be some variation when humans interpret text. The AI's ranking of themes matched the human reviewers majority of the time, and where there were differences, they didn't really change the overall picture.
And what did the officials themselves think? The ones who used it?
They were quoted as being pleasantly surprised. They found it a useful starting point.
A useful starting point. That sounds realistic. Not a magic bullet, but helpful.
Exactly. And perhaps the most telling comment was that it saved them a heck of a lot of time.
Ah, there it is. The time saving.
Yeah, and that allowed them, they said, to focus more on the implications of the feedback for policy rather than just the sorting task.
Which is surely where public servants want to be spending their time on the substance, on making things better.
Absolutely. And that brings us neatly to the benefits. We've touched on the big numbers, potentially 20 million saved, 75,000 workdays, freed up across government each year.
That saved time and money could be huge. You could reinvest that into deeper analysis on trickier issues or faster policy development.
The article talks about creating a more agile state, a government that can react faster, deliver better.
Which ultimately benefits citizens, right?
Yeah.
Faster, more responsive services, more informed policies.
And there's another angle too, bias. Human analysts, even unintentionally, might bring their own perspectives.
True. We all have unconscious biases.
The article suggests a tool like Consult takes away the bias and makes it more consistent. It reduces the opportunity for someone to, as they put it, project their own preconceived ideas onto the analysis.
That's a really interesting point. More consistency, potentially more fairness in how different views within the feedback are weighed.
Yeah, it could lead to a more objective summary of public opinion being presented to decision makers. Plus, think about really massive consultations.
Oh yeah, the ones with tens, even hundreds of thousands of responses.
Exactly. Manually reading every single one is often just not feasible. An AI tool could potentially process that volume and still pull out the major themes and trends.
So what's the official government line on this? Are they excited? Cautious?
Well, Technology Secretary Peter Kyle seems quite keen. He's quoted saying they shouldn't be wasting time on something AI can do quicker and better, or wasting taxpayer money outsourcing it.
Strong words.
He's apparently planning to use Consult in his own department and wants to see it rolled out more widely across Whitehall.
So the intention is there for wider adoption.
Definitely seems to be. But it's important to stress, as the article does, it is still in trial. There will be more evaluation of its accuracy, its efficiency, before any final decisions.
Right, due diligence. Makes sense.
But connecting this back to you, listening in public service, the relevance seems pretty direct, doesn't it?
I think so. These aren't just abstract savings. It's about potentially freeing up your capacity.
Exactly. Less time on the initial, sometimes quite repetitive analysis means more time for you to use your expertise, your judgment, on the harder questions.
More time to actually act on the feedback, to develop those better policies and services we talked about.
It's positioning this as a tool to empower public servants, not replace them, making you more effective.
Spending less energy on the data wrangling and more on the strategic thinking that leads to real-world impact.
Yeah. So wrapping up, the main takeaway seems to be that AI, like Consult, could genuinely change how government handles public input.
Big potential savings, more consistency, maybe less bias, freeing up people for higher value work.
It seems that way. Based on this early trial, it could lead to a government that's, well, better at listening and responding.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. How might tools like Consult actually change your work? If that initial analysis burden gets lighter, what new questions could you ask? What deeper dives into the feedback could you do? Could it open up space for more innovation or engagement?
What new ways might you find to really make that difference you came into public service to make?
Definitely something to think about as this technology evolves. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.